The next portion of the scleral lens soiree, this is a topic that I'm really excited about. Dr. Sint and I have talked about this for a while, wanting to do a presentation on not just the scleral lenses in themselves as far as fitting them, but also managing the actual personality of the patient and some of the psyche that goes on with some of these scleral lens fits. Because sometimes you can do the best thing in the world and you can be fitting these brilliantly, but there does come a personality component, and it's really important to be able to talk to these patients, be empathetic with these patients. And I'm really, really excited to hear from Dr. Sint about this topic. So Dr. Sint is a 1994 graduate of the Ohio State University College of Optometry. She completed a disease-based residency at the Cleveland Veterans Administration Medical Center. Dr. Sint joined the University of Iowa Faculty Department of Ophthalmology and Visual Sciences in 1995, and she is currently the director of the Contact Lens Service and professor of clinical ophthalmology. Dr. Sint holds 7 U.S. patents, and she has over 150 publications. She travels internationally and nationally to many different conferences and meetings. I have used Dr. Sint for a million years. She's like a big sister to me, and you guys are just so lucky to learn from her today. So welcome, Dr. Sint.
Thank you for having me. You know, a million years, that's a long time. I really am the Flintstone of scleral contact lenses. I just want to know if I'm Betty or Barney. Or maybe Fred, I don't know. But, you know, we all love scleral lenses, right? They're just such a great playground, and it allows us to do so much more with our lenses. But, you know, Stephanie, you and I have been talking about, it's just not all about the plastic, right? You know, there's so much that's wrapped around these patients that are coming in for scleral lenses. And that's really where we start with today's lecture. If I can advance my slides here. There we go. All right. It's not all about the plastic, managing these medical contact lens patients. It's about their psyche. It's about cost and money. And when you start putting all of that together, it gets super, super complex. Now, I usually give a form of this talk live in front of people, and we do vignettes and we do role playing. And so doing it on Zoom is a little bit different. So I'm going to ask Dr. Wu to stay on here, and maybe we can have some discussions as we go through this lecture. But I do want to start with just a little story. And some of you probably have heard this story before because it's very common and it's out there, but it's about a carpenter and a person that has a squeaky floorboard. And so this, guy calls up a carpenter and he says, "Hey, come on over. I have this squeaky floorboard and I need it fixed." So the carpenter comes over and he takes out a single nail and boom, puts it in, floor is fixed, hands the person a bill for $100. And the homeowner's like, $100? You just used one nail. What are you talking about? $100. I want an itemized bill. Tell me what you did for that $100. And so the carpenter writes out an itemized bill. Nail, $1. Knowing where to put the nail, $99. Right? Now, everybody says, oh yeah, knowing what you're doing, you need to charge for your services because you know how to do it. But I want to take a step back from that story for a second. Stephanie, if you were that homeowner, how would you feel if you got that bill, right? That's a nail, $1, knowing where to put that nail, $99.
Well, this has happened to me before. And I remember when I was in optometry school, and as you know, we have no money. I mean, you have negative money. And we had a plumber come out because the sink wouldn't work. And he came out and he used a very small O-ring to take apart the sink and put it back together. It took him all of 5 minutes and it ended up costing $300. So as an optometry student, you have no money and now you're paying a bill for somebody that was there for 5 minutes. And I remember being really upset and thinking, oh my God, he was here for like 5 minutes. But now I realize as I've gotten older, I'm like, who cares? You're paying me for what I know. You're not paying me for the amount of time. And so when patients come in and I take metal out of their eye and they get a bill for $100 or whatever, and they say, you were with me for like 30 seconds. And I respond, if you want me to take longer to get the metal out of your eye, I can, but you're not paying me for my time necessarily. You're paying for my knowledge and my experience. So that is how I look at it now, which is very different from how I looked at it back then.
Right. And that's a really good point. And so I'd like to just do another little vignette here. Same situation, right? Guy homeowner calls, he's got a squeaky floorboard, calls up the carpenter again. And now you're the carpenter and you walk into this house and you look around. Wow, there is a lot going on in this house. This house is beautiful. And so you say to the gentleman, wow, this house is a really old house. It's amazing. Like, look at the wood on the floor. This is absolutely fantastic. Can you tell me a little bit about your floor? And so the homeowner says, well, gosh, yes, you know what? My grandfather built this house. Wow, your grandfather built this house? It's just beautiful. It's really taken care of well. Well, yes, my mother waxed this floor every Thursday my entire life growing up. I can still smell the wax. Can you smell it? It's amazing. And now this carpenter's realizing, this guy has a lot of emotional investment in this house and in this floor, right? And so I said, is there anything else you want to tell me about this floor? Why, yes, it has a squeak here, and I'm a little concerned about that floorboard over there as well. Okay, let me take a look at it. All right, you know what, now homeowner, I know a lot about your house and what you have going on. You know what, I have this nail. This is a very special nail. I've designed this nail. I noticed that your floors are all made out of cherry, and this nail is specific for cherry wood. See, it's got these little divots in it, and it's just this particular length. I noticed your floorboard is this length, and so you know what? If I put the nail right here, you're going to see it, and I'm really concerned that when you see that nail, it's going to be unsightly to you. So I'm going to put the nail over here. In this area. I know that seems like it's away from where you think your problem is, but it's actually going to solve the problem because, physics. And so I'm going to put this nail right over here. Now, I'm going to have you, before I do anything, I want you to know that putting this nail over here, that's going to cost you $250. Are we okay with that? Great. Nail's done. How do you feel about that interaction? And so the thing is when we explain to people what they're going to get, why they're going to get, and why it's important, we actually have better interactions for the patients. They actually end up paying us more, and they do it in a happier fashion. And so this lecture really is about connecting with patients and getting paid. One of my colleagues said, shut up and pay me. But it's really not about that. It's about keep talking and pay me. Okay, so we're going to go through some of these interactions here and do some little role playing as we go along. Here are my disclosures. Okay, so optometrists all want to have that feeling of financial security. We always talk amongst ourselves, right? I'm good, darn it, I'm good, and I deserve to be paid. And we want that feeling. I want to go on vacation. I want to drive a nice car. But then we get into these situations where we have to self-promote. I will tell you, I am terrible at self-promoting. I'm absolutely terrible. I will give of myself till the day is long. I will help. I will see where things need to be done. But then when somebody says to me, oh my gosh, you did a really great job, I'll go, it was nothing, right? Because I feel like I could always do better, right? And optometry as a whole, we're these amazing, kind, wonderful people. And when we give of ourselves, but it's often hard for us to ask back. It's hard for us to ask our patients for what we need. And that may be financial. And honestly, sometimes it's emotional, right? Because I want to help you. You're going to have to help me help you. You're going to have to share with me. You're going to have to open up with me, because until I understand you better, I feel like I'm not going to do my job very well. Right? That's a pretty vulnerable thing to say to somebody, but it also connects you with that patient. It makes them see you as human, and then they are less likely to get angry. They are less likely to get upset if they see you as that human being.
Can you repeat that?
But can I repeat that?
Yeah.
if we connect with our patients, if we show them that we are vulnerable, that we want to help them, but they need to help us help them. Our vulnerabilities connect us to the patient, and it makes our interactions better, and it makes us more financially successful, honestly.
Yep.
Hard to do. It's hard. We as human beings hate being vulnerable. We as doctors, patients, everybody hates to be vulnerable. And until we can get to that space where we can say, I am vulnerable, and this is super uncomfortable, but I'm going to stay standing in this place of vulnerability, that is when our practices just explode, and our scleral lens patients, you will have more patients than you know what to do with. And I think, Stephanie, this is an interesting thing. You made this huge decision to stop what you were secure in and go and open up this practice where you essentially are just only doing hard eyes. You're only, well, you probably do everything, but primarily scleral lenses, right? And how did you walk into that, right? To make that decision, did that feel very vulnerable to you?
It really did. And, owning 3 practices where we took insurance, and, I saw 40 patients a day, 50 patients a day. I mean, it just got to the point where when I would see these reimbursement rates, and even Dr. Carlton he just commented, what about when vision plans pay us $40 for an eye exam? These types of things where I was getting reimbursed very poorly with some of these scleral lens fittings. And I had put in so much time and so much effort, and I just got sick of it. And I just said, I am worth so much more than this. And I was also very inspired by people like you, Dr. Sue Resnick, Dr. Ed Boschnick. I mean, there's other people that have really kind of gotten away from the insurance model and decided that this is something, I am worth this. And it's like you said, Chris, it's better this way, because if you're doing something and you don't feel valued, like let's say you're doing a fitting and you're getting paid, you're losing money at that point and you know it, your heart is not as in it as much when you kind of feel resentful and it's upsetting, and you have every right to be, right? If you know that you're getting paid nothing or you're actually losing money. I mean, that's just a terrible feeling. And I said, I don't want to feel that way anymore. I'm really good at what I do. This is a service that most doctors are not providing. And I'm just going to go for it and see what happens. Worst case scenario. So I always play everything out, right? Worst case scenario. If I do this, and I called you a million times, Chris, I was like, am I doing the right thing? You're like, you're doing the right thing. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to try it and see what happens. But I'm like, okay, worst case, it doesn't work out. I'm not taking insurance. Are people going to pay? Worst case, I'll just go back to taking insurance. What's the big deal? If you don't take that risk or that leap of faith, you will never know, because you're just going to keep doing what you were doing. So incredibly vulnerable, incredibly scary. I mean, I gave up a lot to start this clinic, and it was very scary, very vulnerable, but I will tell you, it is the absolute best thing I've done in my career.
Yeah. And that's great. Something that you said just really rung with me, and I'm going to paraphrase it maybe a little differently than what you said, but let me know if I'm correct here. Okay. What I heard you say was, I made this choice and I decided it was okay if I was wrong.
Absolutely. 100%.
And it's the same way with scleral lenses. When we connect with our patients, right, we are saying to them, I am going to do the best I can do. This is what I'm seeing. I'm bringing you on the journey with me. You are part of the success. You are part of how this is going to happen. We are making our choices together. And guess what? Sometimes we are going to be wrong. And if we're wrong, we make a different choice. But I'm not going to leave you. I'm not going to abandon you. We will have to make a different choice. And I think, Stephanie, what I heard you say is, I was going to go on this adventure. I was going to do something else. And if I'm wrong, I will make another choice. But I do not feel abandoned. Right? I went on this journey and it was my journey, but I am surrounded by this community of people
Absolutely.
who won't abandon me. Right. And that's a really great thing. And that's what we are as a scleral lens worldwide now. Worldwide, we are a community of people that won't abandon you.
Before you go on, there's a comment from a male optometrist, and he wants to kind of explain more. I don't quite get being more vulnerable with our patients. Can you kind of go into that a bit, or maybe if a male perspective may not be understanding as much?
That is really wonderful. So let's back that thought up a little bit, this idea of vulnerability. In the past, the doctor-patient relationship was always, I'm the doctor, you're the patient. I am big, you are small. I have the authority, you have to do what I say. If you don't do what I say, you are non-compliant. Right? You are non-compliant, our relationship is now broken. And that is not how people want to consume information anymore. Right? You are not big, they are not small. We are all human and we are all on the same level. We are going to share information. Right? I have experience in this, you have, but you, patient, have experience with your eyeballs. And I need to know about your eyes. I need to know about your life. And then we will make a choice. I often say, if I had a series of eyeballs sitting in my chair that were all the same, that would be easy. It's the people wrapped around the eyes and the lives wrapped around the people that actually make scleral contact lens or contact lens fitting in general, medical contact lens fitting difficult. And so this idea of vulnerability is switching the thought from I have the experience and you have nothing, to this idea of I don't know who you are and I have to figure that out. Right? It's not about insecurity, and it's not like you're going to sit there and cry and weep and tell them your whole life experience. It's about opening yourself up to actively listening to who the patient is. So, and well, we'll talk about it now. I have slides that go into this, but we'll talk about it now. It's about turning to the patient, sitting back, opening yourself up, opening your body up, leaning into the patient and engaging them. It's about sitting in their discomfort without trying to fix them. As a physician, we have always said, I have the answer. I have the answer. I know what to solve your problem. You don't have to explain your presbyopia to me in so much, right? But they want to feel heard. So being vulnerable is about letting that patient feel heard and letting them continue to talk and not putting up barriers to that conversation.
Excellent.
Okay? Yeah, it's about letting them see you as a human being, right? As a partner in their progress. I have had situations where I failed, where lenses didn't work, or the patient I was trying to save their eye. I work with some very sick eyes, and I was trying to save their eye, and ultimately I couldn't save their eye. And the patient would sit with me and we would both talk about what that meant and what the next steps were and the difficulties in that. It let me feel for the patient. Empathy and sympathy are very different, and we're going to talk about that as well. But the flip side to that is when you're vulnerable with your patients is you get to share in the joy too. My mother said to me when I was little, if you're happy for yourself, you will be only happy for yourself when you reach, when good things happen. You will be very happy a very small amount of your time. But if you're happy for other people, you will be happy all the time. Right? And that's how, yeah. And that's how I feel about my patients as well. I had a little baby that I have in scleral lenses from birth, protecting the ocular surface. And now this baby is 18 months old. And the mom came back and she sits in my chair and she's like, oh, I have to patch full time. And she was very distraught about it. And I said to her, oh my gosh, you get to patch full time. This is amazing. We are at that point. We have saved the eye. We have had surgery. You are at the point now where we're developing vision. This is amazing. And then we were able to share in each other's joy. Right? And I think many of us that fit scleral lenses, that feeling of sharing in their joy is what drives us, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And going back to the talk, but the other thing that drives us is we have to be financially successful, right? We can't give everything away. And so one of the barriers that we have, or one of the barriers we have to being vulnerable, is being afraid to talk about finances, being afraid that if I ask them for what I'm worth, what if they say no? And if they say no, are they saying no to me? Do they think I'm not worth it? What if I'm not worth it? Right? I mean, talk about a mind game, but this is what we do. And so what happens when that patient is in your chair and they're like, well, does my insurance cover this? And why does it, what are you doing that costs so much? And what's a cheaper option? I want a cheaper option, right? And sometimes we take these on without talking to the patient, right? As optometrists, well, the patient wants a cheaper option, I'll give them a cheaper option. But when you go, hey, you've got that pinguicula, Dr. Denier just showed, showing up these technologies and then saying like, you got this pinguicula, that's going to be an issue. You have this super oval cornea, that's going to be an issue. And talking through, I can put you in a cheaper option, but this is what you're going to get with that. These are the problems you're going to get. Option B, option C, which one do you want? And then sit there in their discomfort while they figure out these options. Learning to sit quietly while somebody else is uncomfortable is a real life skill. I practice it with your family, practice it with your patients, practice it with your colleagues. You don't have to solve all the problems. You do have to know the options that are available. Okay, so before the visit, let's talk about some things that you have to do before the visit, because the before the visit actually solves a lot of your problems that you have. One is have the payment conversation with your staff before you have the payment conversation with your patients. Your staff is everything. So you need to make sure that everybody is clear on what the expectations are in the practice. But again, going back to that vulnerability, it's not always top down. You learn a lot from the bottom up as well. So the conversation with your staff also then includes things that are super uncomfortable to you, such as asking these questions. Are the patients confused about what they owe when they get to the front desk? Do they think they owe more than what they got? Sometimes, if your staff doesn't want to disappoint you, but sometimes they might actually come up with like, patient didn't think you spent enough time with them, right? Good things to hear. Hard to hear because you think you spent a lot of time with the patient. Good things to hear. Are they struggling collecting the money? What if the patient owes money? How do they collect that? Are they unclear when to ask for money? And are there opportunities? Are there things that they would like that you can support them? So the payment conversation is top down, but it's also bottom up. You need to listen to your staff about what makes them uncomfortable, because the highest intention always wins. Okay. So you can say to your staff all the time, you have to collect this money, you have to collect this money, you have to collect this money. But if the staff's intention is to not be uncomfortable, and that means they're not going to collect the money, they're not going to collect the money. The highest intention always wins. Whether you say it or not, what is thought in your head is always what's going to happen. So it all comes down to communication. You have to talk to your staff. You have to talk to your patients. If you put a policy in place, Stephanie, like, you're going to have to pay for this ahead of time or before the procedures, if that's something that makes sense to you, everybody has to be on board, right? And that includes, yeah.
Like you were saying in the beginning, it's so important to go over all of this before you even go down the route of the fitting. That's what I have learned as far as having this new type of clinic where they would go up front and they wouldn't know, or does the staff collect half of it or all of it? Or, everybody's kind of confused. And I'm like, all right, you have to develop a system where everybody is very crystal clear on what's going to happen on this journey before you even start the journey. And that has saved us and has made for an incredibly efficient system now. So I'm loving that you're putting this all in writing.
And it's, I love that you use the word journey, because that's really what it is. And to be honest, some people will decide they don't want to go on the journey with you. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. You don't have to be all things to all people all the time. Right?
And that's something really hard.
It is really hard, especially if you think, I have to see all of these patients. I'm learning and I'm growing. And that's okay too. You know what? Sometimes it's okay to see a patient just because you want to figure it out, just because their disease is exciting to you, just because you have someone, but then you have to know why you're doing it, right? Sometimes there's things that are worth more than money, but you have to know of what the journey is. It's about creating a map. I talk about a care map all the time with patients. And that starts with the financial plan. It starts with telling them specifically what you're going to do. At today's visit, we're going to do X, Y, Z. And then the next visit, we're going to do these things. And the next visit, we're going to do these things. The patients know that they're handled and they know that they're on this journey. And it is literally a map. It is literally a care map. And the financial piece is part of it. And it starts before they're in your office. And what I mean by other stakeholders is the other people that refer into your office, so that, Dr. X will know that you have to pay up ahead of time, and may even mention it to the patient. When you call, they're going to have you pay ahead of time. Oh, okay. That's okay with me. Have written documentation. And this includes, and we're going to talk, Dr. Newman is going to talk about advanced beneficiary notices, and that's different than written documentation. What I'm talking about, what I'm going to be talking about is office policies. Have an office policy manual where you list out exactly what, how you want your staff to handle the financial aspect of the practice. It's written documentation that states out exactly what you expect from the patient in very plain language. Very plain language, written at about the third grade level, that the patient will actually sign. This is not an advanced beneficiary notice, which has insurance implications. Those ABNs are very confusing to patients. This is put in, what is your return policy? What is your, if you have fees, you can put those fees in there. And then always circle back around and continue that dialogue. Always keep bringing it back around, and then set those clear expectations. If the patient knows up front that they have to pay, they are more likely to pay. Right? And then if you are in partnership with them, they feel that partnership. They're not going to want to stiff you, right? Because they feel bonded to you. And then really talk to your staff about what patient communication channels you want in your practice, whether it's email, letters, text messages. We have an app at our hospital, a patient portal where they can pay, where they can communicate with the doctor, written materials. And sometimes it's a combination of those things. Like you may want to send a text message to your patient that says, hey, our patient portal is open for your payment. You can log on here. Right? You don't want to have the full office policy come to them via text message. And oftentimes their email, they will not read a 20-page email as well. Right? So you have to tailor it to your patient's needs. Okay. And the written financial policy, you just need to, whatever is important to you, you need to have in there. Like you are going to collect their copays and balances. And by the way, you should know what they are before the patient gets to the office. You're going to collect automated payments, discount for cash payments, whatever you feel that you need to have in your practice, you put in there. But the one thing that I want you to really think about is don't ask your staff to do something. Don't ask your staff to have a conversation that you are uncomfortable having yourself.
That's good advice.
And one thing that I see is, and when I talk to doctors, is they will, in the exam room, just want that patient to love them. Oh, they just want that patient to love them so much. And they will say like, oh, we can work with you. Don't worry about it. Let me just get on your eye or something. And then the patient will go up to the front desk and they've interpreted that as, I don't have to pay. Mm-hmm. And yep. And the other thing is, Patients will try to get away with things. They will, because they're human. And it turns out humans can be a little difficult at times, but somebody will go up to the front desk and they will have a different conversation with the front desk person than they actually had with you. Right? So what I would recommend is, one, you have this written financial policy of what you expect. Your staff knows that you stick to that policy. They know that if that patient is saying something different, that they're being taken for a ride, right? And they can stick to the policy and tailor the script to that. The other is, if you are going to go off script, walk the patient to the front desk and have a conversation so that the patient and your front desk person and you all are in on the conversation and everybody is in agreement. Do the handoff. Don't just send the patient to the front desk. Do the handoff with that patient. For the sake of time, I have some slides in here with a lot of words on it that you can go and read yourself. So we don't have a lot of time to go through some of this, but it really starts with your website. Your website promotes who you are, what's expected. You can have payment information and some of these policies on that website, portals and things like that to make it easier for your patient. But here's what it comes down to: practice, 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 practice having those hard conversations. And I would practice with your staff, but practice with yourself as well. Have one of your staff members have days where you just sit there and have somebody be angry at you, or sit there and have the conversations that you want your staff to have, and have your staff say, well, what if the patient says this? And what if the patient says that? It's like playing the piano. You can't just sit down and play the piano. You have to practice it. You can be wonderful at it, and you may hate it at first, and you can be wonderful at it, but it does not come easy over time. If you want to give everything away because you don't want to have those difficult conversations, then you will never excel at being a master scleral lens fitter, because these people are difficult and they need to have the difficult conversations. And it doesn't mean it can't be handled with empathy, but it has to be handled with confidence. The concept of empathizing with somebody without solving their problem, Stephanie, have you ever had that where a patient, tells you what's going on and what's wrong, and you can empathize with them, but you don't have to solve their financial problem?
Well, that's something that's been very hard for me. I've gotten a lot better with it over the years, but an example would be somebody comes in and they have a very sick eyeball, and we do all the testing and we go over all of the different options of what kind of lenses we can use and how we can help them and the different pricing. And they say, oh my gosh, I just can't afford that at this point. And I want to just jump in. And like you said, you taught me, you got to be silent and process. They have to be in their own difficult situation, and you have to just be silent. So when you're just quiet, they're processing it through their head, and just a knee-jerk reaction. I want to just say, oh, okay, I'll do it for you anyway. Or, oh, okay, we'll just do it for half off. Or, that's like stuff that I think of in my brain, but in the long run, that's not helping anybody. I'm a business owner. It's a business at the end of the day too. And I can't be losing money on every single patient. So now what I do is I say, I completely understand. Here's the information, everything that you need to know about your disease that we've gone over, all the scans, all the pictures, all the information about the options we've presented. And we are here to help you whenever you need. So I say something like that, where I'm understanding of their situation and empathetic, but at the same time, I can't solve that problem. I can't take money out of my pocket and say, here you go. I can solve that problem.
Yeah, I think that in patients, if you solve their problem, if you say, well, I'll do it for half off, you may not actually be solving their problem, because half off to you is a big deal. That's a big deal in your practice, right? You still have all your bills to pay. You still have your staff to pay. But to them, half off may still be a lot of money that they simply don't have. So the patient comes into it feeling like they're still spending a lot of money. And now you're, a little like, I'm giving them a lot of money. And then everybody's actually sad and unhappy. And so when we try to solve people's problems, we don't actually solve a problem, but we do create our own problem. But when we let them solve the problem, sometimes they're going to be the happiest people that come back into your practice. An example I have is a patient who I went through his options. I explained to him what was going on. I explained to him why past options failed. I explained to him what needed to happen to move forward and the technology that I have available to myself, and that I did understand what was going on in his life. And he sat there quietly for a while. And I said to him, I'm going to let you and your wife have a moment, and I'm going to come back and after you talk about it. So 5-10 minutes went by. I came back in the room and I said, do you have any other questions, more information you'd like from me? And they said, well, we were going to put a porch on our house this summer and do these renovations. But I guess we'll do his eyes instead. Okay, all forlorn and everything. And I said, okay, that sounds like an option that you have. Great. Do you want to proceed now? Yes, we do. Okay. All right. Months went by. I got his lenses, everything, came back for a follow-up, 6-month follow-up later. And when I walk in the room, the first thing he said to me was, best porch ever. Right? And so, awesome. He really found the value in it. He takes great care of his lenses because he's super invested in them. That was a while ago. He has now replaced these lenses several times because, they just came up for renewal. And he really found the value in that. I've had patients sell horses. I've had patients make other lifestyle changes. The flip side to this, though, and I want to caution people, is we have to be very careful about our own prejudice when we see patients. We see patients and they have diamonds on their rings, or they have, or we say silly things like, well, if they'd quit smoking, they could afford this. Or if, the lenses cost less than their cell phone, or silly things like that, that actually puts up a barrier or a blockade to this communication level. Really, the key here that I'm saying is get to the point where you practice these conversations so you can sit comfortably and non-judgmentally in this very uncomfortable space that the patient is, and let them sort out their stuff. It also, by the way, works for your children. Let them fall and pick themselves up a little bit, but be there for them so they know they won't fall too far. Okay. So 5 reasons that the staff fail to collect from patients. One is thinking that you've written this amazing document and that's enough. It is not enough. People are uncomfortable and you have to continually circle around with them. And by the way, you get new staff and you have to change the scripts. A script that would work for me 10 years ago isn't going to work for me today. People's attitudes, society changes. You have to flow with what society is thinking. So update your policies, but update your training and your role playing all the time. Vague and inconsistent rules. This is one where you have to be clear about what the rules are. You can't be loosey-goosey in your rules. Your staff wants to know what you want, and they want to do a good job by you. It doesn't mean that you can't have a toolbox for them, which we're going to talk about next, of things that they can use to troubleshoot and problem solve in the practice, but you do have to be consistent with your rules. You can't say, this is the policy, you need to enforce it, staff member, but I'm going to tell the patient in the exam room that it's okay, they don't have to pay today. What you need to say is, you know what, you can't pay today, let's bring you back another day when you've got it all together. You don't have to fit everybody in your practice right then or at all.
This is important because I think a lot of doctors, including myself, I have done this where the staff, they're used to, okay, they have to collect the copay and they know that they do that. And then I'm in the room and I'm like, don't worry about it today. We'll figure it out the next time you're here and I'll see them anyway. And that just puts the staff in a bad situation and they look bad and it's not fair to them. So then I realized, you know what? I've got to be true to my word. I've got to help support the staff because they are the lifeblood of the office. And if I'm making all these changes, I mean, that makes them feel bad. So, we've really gotten a great situation now where this is how things operate. The staff are very well in tune. If we do have something that is different, I do exactly what you said, Chris. I take them up to the front and say, hey, this is what we're doing. And everybody listens and is involved at the same time. We're only collecting half today. We're going to collect the other half at their dispense, or whatever the situation is if I'm going off of that written script. But I think that this is really important for especially practice owners listening. This is something really important. And if you ask your staff, this is something they will say, well, it really kind of makes us look bad when we're trying to collect the fee and then you come out and say, you don't have to collect the fee, or, it just doesn't make them feel good. So I'm really glad you brought this up.
Yeah, if your staff feels unsupported in this, they will stop supporting you in other ways as well. It's a two-way street, and this is where scripts are really important. If somebody comes in and they're like, oh, I didn't bring my checkbook today, or they come in and they tell you a very long story of what happened before they got into your office, your staff can say, that sounds really difficult. Do you have a credit card?
Mm-hmm.
Or that sounds really difficult. We have our patient portal. How about I email you the link to our patient portal and you can pay it when you get home, right?
Yeah.
Have these other ways, but give your staff the tools and then give them the scripts that they can say. You can say, pay me, but have it sound very empathetic.
Absolutely.
And all right, and this goes back to the empty toolbox, right? You have to have a toolbox. Your staff has to feel like they can make assessments of how that situation's going and decide how they're going to handle that patient within the set of rules that you as a practice owner have set up. Okay. Another thing of why collections fail is not all staff members can actually ask for money. Some people, just staff-wise, are fundamentally difficult at it. They fundamentally have an issue at it. Now, I will tell you as a practice owner and as the doctor, I'm going to tell you, buck up and get over it, right? Practice, practice, practice. Attend a seminar if you have to. Go to therapy, get counseling. I don't care what you need to do. And maybe that's a future topic, Stephanie. We can buck up and get over it.
Buck up and get over it.
Your staff members don't get paid as much as you do, and they need, and sometimes you just may have the wrong personality in there. They may be great at doing INRs, but they're terrible at asking for money. So set up your system, find people that are the right people for the positions in your practice, and then monitor your staff. Right? Circle back around. How much money did you collect today? If you didn't collect money, why didn't you collect that money? Do random checks, look at your logs and find out what your barriers are. If not, why not? Right? Because you may suddenly find that the staff they don't know what to collect. And that may be a new process you need to have in your office. Whether maybe you need to go back to paper. Maybe you need to get away from paper. Maybe you need to, there's lots of different things that are going on, but find out why things are failing in your practice. Money that you collect on the day of service is worth more money than anything that you bill out. Anytime you don't collect money, you are losing money. Yeah. Okay. And I want to make sure we don't run over time here. Okay, we're doing okay. So the pre-exam discussions that you have, sending out reminders, patients, Stephanie, when you're in the exam room with a patient, you give them a ton of information on that first day. They just, hair is blown back, they get a lot going on with you. And the money conversation is really difficult. So as much of that as you can give to them ahead of time. And then in the exam room, when we talk about, what is during the exam visit and educating patients, this is where you as the doctor, you need to lean in, you need to engage. This needs to be a human to a human, person to person communication, right? Open posture, don't be defensive. Right? If you get to the point where you say, like, you're thinking to yourself, like, I'm better than that. I'm good, right? You need to take a step back, breathe, and come in, because none of their eyeball is actually about you, right? This is not about you. This is about their eyes, their concern, and they don't really care how you feel about the whole situation. Right? You have to get to the point where you understand their situation, and then they're going to communicate better with you. But this is not about you. So if you find yourself feeling defensive, either at the front desk or in the exam room, you realize this actually isn't about you. And then empathize, but don't apologize. That sounds really hard. Or, wow, you had to miss your son's graduation because of this eye thing. That's difficult for you. And what I'm hearing is you want to be able to perform in these activities again. Is that correct? Right? There's so many ways, so many places that you can get that information of how to have these conversations. A particular book of mine that I really like is called Nonviolent Communication. And it is just so valuable in my practice about having communications with people that feels open and comfortable to them and to you, and doesn't feel violence. Doesn't mean like violence is when people say things to people that feels uncomfortable. So empathize, do not apologize. I'm so sorry it costs so much. That's not going to get you anything. I understand you're in this situation and we have the tools to help you. Would you like me to help you? Okay. That's a very different story. Okay, so invite the cost conversation with your patients. It's on everybody's mind. Everybody's thinking about it. It is the elephant in the room, right? It is the thing that's there. You might as well bring it up. But here's a question for you, Stephanie. Do you think the doctor should have the discussion about money?
Well, this is something that you're going to get different responses from different people. In my practice, I am the one that goes over everything with them as far as the cost, what's included, any questions they answer. So I feel like we're all on the same page. I have told them exactly what the cost is. They know exactly what's included and what to expect. And then Taylor up front, she already knows what's included because she knows all the costs for everything. And so that is just what works well for me. However, in other practices, LASIK clinics, cataract surgery, it's almost never the doctor that's going over the pricing. They give that to someone else and then have their own conversation. So I honestly don't think there is a right or wrong answer, but in my clinic, that's just how we do it. And it's worked out really well.
Mm-hmm. I think that scleral lenses are a little different even from some of these other things, because the scleral lens is such an intimate piece of clothing, really. A scleral lens is a very intimate device, right? And it is their hope. It is that scleral lens has everything to do with that person's life and their hope and their dreams and what they want out of it. And they're placing a lot of emotion on that little piece of plastic. And I see it as my job is to make sure that they see that plastic is what I see in that plastic, and how I'm going to handle what they hope to have. I have, some of the higher financial conversations, exactly what it costs. My staff takes care of the raw numbers, sign here, here's the form, you sign this is what it's going to cost. Right. But I have the conversation that basically I sum it up with, hey, this is what you're going to get, not free. Right? And the patients can engage at that point. And then some people really are afraid of having that conversation because they think it's going to take a lot of time. But what I find is the difficult conversation up front saves a lot of time in the end. So having that conversation initially sets those expectations. It's really boundary setting, and boundaries make for happy relationships. And so, having that conversation, have you ever gone to one of these meetings, Stephanie, and you're seeing all of our colleagues and you love them so much. You love every one of these people so much. And you're coming up to somebody and you think to yourself, do I hug them? Do I kiss them? Do I kiss them on the right or do I kiss them on the left? Oh my God. This is the conversation you have when you're walking up, because you know what, in the US, we don't do that, right? And so you're having these thoughts in your head, and that is actually a barrier to the fact that you're so excited to see this person, right? Do I go right or do I go left? And it's so much more relaxing when you know I'm going to see this person and this is how we hug. We figured it out, right? Or I don't hug this person. It's actually those boundaries make you more comfortable as a person, right? And patients are the same way. They know their boundaries and then they become more comfortable in your relationship. So we're almost done here with this section. And the rest of the handout is just really for your own personal information here. But the principles of financial communication and really communicating in your practice is inform before you perform, right? So before you do anything, inform your patient of what's going to happen, right? If you don't ask for the money, the answer is always no. If you don't ask for the money, you're not going to get the money. So it's okay to ask, right? When we talk to patients and we're gathering information about who they are, we ask open-ended questions. How do you feel about that? Where, what do you want out of this lens? What happened? We ask these open-ended questions. When you talk about finances, it's not an open-ended question. When you talk about finances, it's how would you like to pay today? We take checks, we take cash, and we take your credit card, right? You don't ask open-ended questions. You ask a closed-ended question so that they are forced into one of these answers of how they're going to pay. Okay. Treat your patient as a person and not as a bill, right? So when you have somebody come in, there's these lives that are wrapped around these people that are very complicated. An example I have of this is I had a gentleman at my front desk and he was super angry. I mean, like super, super angry. And he's flapping his bill in my staff's face and he's just screaming and using bad words. And I said, hey, you know what? Let's come into the exam room. And I said to him, what's going on? And I understand you don't want to pay your bill. And he said, well, I'm not going to pay my bill. I can't see out of the stupid things. Oh, well, I know he's been wearing lenses for a couple of years now. And you can't see out of them. All of a sudden I'm thinking like, what's wrong with your eye? He said, well, I can't see out of it if I can't get it in. Oh, well, that's a different story. You can't get it in. You've been wearing them for 2 years. What, you suddenly can't get it in? Well, no, I can't get it in. My wife died and she always put it in for me. And so he got the bill right after his wife died, and it just reminded him of all the things that he lost. And so it's not about the bill, it's about this person that needs to be supported in that particular moment. And if I didn't ask these questions, I would not have gotten to that answer. So I said to him, let's teach you how to put the lens in. Do you want to do that? And he said, yeah. We taught him to put the lens in and he went up and he paid his bill. So if my staff was going down the role of just arguing about the bill, but he needed to be heard as a person. Okay. I mentioned don't judge before because you don't know what's going on in their lives, right? Don't own their problems. Always sustain an attitude of service. I am here to help you. You don't have to make a decision today. I'm still going to be here. You know what? You may choose to go to a different practice. My patient may see me and then say, you know what? I've heard of that woman, that Dr. Stephanie Wu in Nevada, and I'm going to go have her fit me. That's great. You have questions? Give me a call. You know why? Because I know Stephanie, right? We will text about you, I guarantee. But maintain an attitude of service. I'm always here for you. And they will frequently circle back around. If they know that you're open and they get other opinions, it just strengthens your position if they come back to you. And then I'll look for the emotional cues. A lot of times patients say one thing, but you're hearing something else. If you're hearing something else in the tone of their voice or their posture or something that's going on, dig into it. Find out what's going on, because the patient may say that they're going to pay, but if you're feeling like something's not right or that there's an underlying thing, stop and say, I'm hearing this. Am I correct? Because sometimes you're going to uncover problems and that they didn't say when they initially came in. And that is what separates out good from excellent. Right? That separates out your Yahoo reviews to your 5-star amazing. I can't believe this doctor is the person I've needed my whole life. So I think we have run out of time, Stephanie. And so maybe open it up to questions right now. This is a hard conversation and a lot of people are super uncomfortable with it. And some of the people who are like, this is a little too touchy-feely for me and I'm not really digging.
I'm sure a lot of people on this call are like, can we get back to like scleral lens stuff? But this is such a huge part of fitting scleral lenses. It comes with the person attached to the eyeballs, like you said. And I wanted to circle back on something you just said, which was, when they ask you questions and they're price shopping, whatever, and they say, you know what, Dr. Sint, your prices are really high, and like the person down the street is like half. So I think I'm going to go there. And so when I would be offended in the beginning, I'm like, but I'm really good. And I know what I'm doing. And I've got this incredible technology and all this stuff. And, I just had to say, okay, if that's what you want to do, absolutely, I will be here in case you ever need anything. And my husband actually was the one that reminded me. He's like, you're not trying to be the cheapest doctor in town. That is not what you do. You are providing this concierge type service with technology and experience that no one else in Nevada has. Why would you be the cheapest? And I thought, oh my God, that is absolutely true. And you told me, Chris, there's going to be patients. They're going to come in. They're going to say, you know what, it's not the right year, and they'll go somewhere else. And then they'll be back. And a lot of them are, they maybe got fit somewhere else, or maybe it just didn't work out, or maybe they didn't have the technology they needed, whatever the thing is. But you were 1,000% right when you told me it's okay. Let them go. It's just not the right time for them. Just let them know you're going to be here for them in case they ever need you. And that is how I always end my conversations now. If they want to think about it, or they're just not sure that they want to spend the money, absolutely. I said, take this information, talk it over with your spouse or your kids or whatever the situation is. And I'm always here in case you need anything. You know where to find us. And I just think that's a really great way to kind of show the patients you really do care and you're there for them. And I think it really goes with your number 6, sustain an attitude of service.
Right. It's because it's not about the plastic. If we make what we do about the plastic, then we become a commodity, right? People are going to pay, whether it's in dollars or time or emotions or comfort, but people are going to pay one way or another. And, to be quite honest, if somebody wants to go down the street and they can be fit in a less expensive lens, then you know what? That's great for them. They should do that, right? They should do that, because that leaves me open for the people that really, really need me, right? And the people that really, really need me are going to pay out of pocket. Now, the caveat to that is the people who can pay allow me to have charity. And that allows me to decide where my charity is, right?
Yep.
So that allows me, the people who pay, actually, I can do more good in the world. If I give somebody a discount and they really don't end up caring and it ends up in a bad situation, that's bad. But if somebody pays in full, but the next person comes in and I really feel like this person has that charity that I want to give to, that case, I can then say to that person, I'm going to give you charity, right? And you know what you're expecting out of that charity? You're expecting that person to be like, I get that this is charity and thank you, because that's what you want, is a thank you. And then you feel good about yourself because you knew you did it. But don't give charity away without the person knowing that you did it, because then they're just paying less for your services.
Absolutely. Well, this has been an amazing, amazing lecture. Dr. Voisin, Dr. Bainbridge, Dr. Brill, a million other people commenting on how this is just not talked enough. And this is such an important topic. And what a great job you did. And I have to read this one from Dr. Huang. Dr. Sint is the Brene Brown of optometry.
I love Brene Brown. Watch her TED Talk.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Chris. It was amazing being with you for the last hour. Thanks for all of your experience, your wisdom. I know that I personally reach out to you all the time with these situations, and you coach me through it and have made me a better person and a better doctor. And I'm sure a lot of people on this call are thinking the same thing. So thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. I'll see you all in Boston. Thanks.